Hey, what's up? This is Zach here at the Genzio Media House, day 2, with Chris from Algorand. What's up, man?
What's up? What's up, Zach? Oh man,
So Chris and I have actually known each other, I think, like for a year now.
yeah.
But
Has it already been a year?
time flies. I think about a year, and this is our kind of first chance to do kind of like a podcast together. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into your background. And I think the question on everyone's mind is, what is Algorand doing at Denver? It's very interesting. So before we dive in, love to hear kind of like a little bit about yourself, your background.
Yeah, definitely. So, hi everyone. My name is Chris Kim. I'm a developer relations advocate for the Algorand Foundation. So a little bit about myself. I'm Korean, so I was born in South Korea. Um, but I've been living abroad in Canada, United States, since elementary school. So, although I'm Korean, like Korean is like I'm not 100% fluent in Korean, but also I'm not 100% fluent in English. So like I just can't speak any language.
Same,
It's a
same.
huge
I
problem that I
barely even
have.
speak English, bro.
And it's a huge problem that all international students probably agree with. Um
I think it's just amazing that you can speak 2 languages, bro. Honestly, I think that's really impressive.
I mean, it's really helped me a lot, right? Just knowing how to speak 2 languages, it's actually quite powerful. Being in Korea, just knowing how to speak English, it can take you a long way. It brings you a lot of opportunities. So, definitely being able to speak a lot of language helps you a lot in your career. But to tell you a little bit about how I got into blockchain and Web3, so I'm Korean, so all Korean males have to go serve in the military for 2 years. So I was doing that, and I was a college student back then, so I took a break from school, and I was thinking what I do with my life. Like I don't know what I want to do for my career. Um, and then my friend invited me to this leadership conference that was happening in Korea, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll try it out, see what's happening here. And one of the main topics there was actually blockchain, and that was in 2017, I believe. It was 2018 or 19, something like that. Yeah, but I knew about Bitcoin. Like 2017 was a crazy year for Bitcoin, but I didn't personally like it. Although I didn't know anything about Bitcoin, right? But I'm an economics major, and whenever you see a volatile asset, and you know, you just think, okay, that is very shady, and I don't want to get involved in that. That was my first perspective of Bitcoin, where I didn't know anything about it. But I knew blockchain was used for this Bitcoin thing. And for a blockchain to be one of the main topics of such big event that was happening in Korea, I was like, there's got to be something going on, right? So I went into some of the talks about blockchain in that leadership conference, and that's where I really got hooked with this technology. Was the first time where I was like, "Wow, this is actually something interesting that I find interesting, and something that I can make a career out of." So I just dedicated my entire time from then on just to study what this blockchain technology is all about. So after the army, I went back to school. So I'm a graduate from UC Berkeley, and they have this amazing blockchain club called Blockchain at Berkeley. Shout out to Blockchain at
All
Berkeley.
those guys, Liam and I know all those guys.
Oh, Liam. Liam's the one who he was the president when I went in, and he was the one who actually believed in me and picked me up when I was going through the interview process.
That's crazy. Small world. He was in the intern class with me at Ripple, so I spent a summer with him in San Francisco.
Wow, small world.
2019 summer. So if Liam, if you're watching this, what's up, man?
Yeah, but so I went back to school, joined blockchain at Berkeley. I was a business consultant then because I didn't know how to code. Um, and that's how I got started. And I've grew and I gained experience there. And then I was looking for a summer internship, and Algorand was hiring an intern. So I applied, and the manager was crazy enough to like me. So
Not
he,
that crazy. You're very likable. Come on now.
thank you,
The
thank you.
YouTube views and sub show that.
Thank you, Zach. So I joined as an Algorand intern at Algorand Technologies, and I was supposed to go under product team because the internship that I applied for was technical product management intern. But I also interviewed the head of developer relations, and he really liked me, so he kind of poached me from the product team to have me in the DevRel team.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know. Like he said he liked me. Like he said, I'm very charismatic. I'm likable. And when you're DevRel, you're going on stages, meeting people, trying to explain stuff, convince people that this technology is great. So he said that having that kind of charisma is very important for DevRel.
And the technical knowledge.
Right, and the technical knowledge.
That's a hard mix to find.
Right. So that's I guess that's where it's interesting, is because I didn't study computer science. I was an economics major. I didn't know how to write a single line of code. But because I got into blockchain, I thought, oh, if I really want to understand this technology, I got to learn how to code. So I self-taught myself how to code, and then double majored in data science at UC Berkeley to get some coding experience. Crazy. Yeah, and so I had some technical knowledge, right? So he poached me to DevRel. I didn't even know what DevRel was, but turns out it's like the perfect job for me, because to be a good DevRel, you got to have technical knowledge, but you also have to know how to do public speaking, to talk to people, to be social. Funny thing is, back in high school, I was very into acting and musicals, right? So I did a lot of stage performance. I took acting classes, so like I kind of knew how to be on stage.
Oh, that's crazy that you learn computer science, economics, and acting.
Okay,
bro, that's literally insane, bro.
Zach, if you put it like that, that makes me sound like this super genius, but it is definitely not that. I just dabbled on all these things and I'm just having fun. But yeah, so DevRel turned out to be this perfect job for me, and I loved every part of this role, right? So after the internship, my manager said, we want you back after you graduate from college. So I had a year left in college, and for a company for Algorand, which is a startup, right? It's a small
so
team.
Weird to think of it as a startup.
I know. But back in the days, right? It had like 2-3 years in. But for a startup like Algorand to trust a student who still have a year left in school to come back after a year and work as full-time as DevRel, they showed insane trust in me, right? So that really pushed me to spend that year on growing as much as I can, right? I gotta learn what Algorand blockchain is. I gotta learn all the fundamentals of blockchain technology so that I don't disappoint the trust that my manager and the company gave to a student who was a nobody, right? So a year goes by, I come back, start working full-time as DevRel for Algorand, and it's been a year and a half now, and every step of the way has been an amazing journey.
Talk about those steps.
Yeah, definitely. So 2 years ago, was it? I came to ETH Denver. I was a student back then, so I still had a couple months before I started working full-time, but Algorand just invited me, and we had this big Algorand side event back then, and that's where it all started. I witnessed my teammates doing DevRel stuff, so I was learning by seeing what they were doing, and I came in and I spent a couple months just learning about the technology so that I can teach it to people. My manager wanted me to be on the more front-facing side of DevRel, because DevRel is a huge, it has a wide spectrum. A DevRel, there's technical DevRels that do technical support, debugging, but they don't really go to conferences, do stages and stuff.
They're not like front facing.
Right, they're not front facing. But there's also front facing DevRels that go to conferences, meet people, outreach, right, to grow the community, education. There's so many different things when it comes to DevRel. And I was more on the front facing side, so going to conferences and doing public speaking. And my first talk was at this Singapore Algorand event next to Token 2049. And yeah, that was my first talk. And since then, I've just been doing a lot of conference talks. And then last year, Q1 of 2023, the DevRel team, we were like, okay, we need to build a video series and create these educational content for developers. Because back then, all we had was the developer portal and some sample applications, and that was it. And a lot of developers were struggling to learn how to build an Algorand. So we wanted to create these visual video content, short 5 to 10 minute videos covering Algorand concepts, code demos, so that they can just like watch these videos and learn how to build an Algorand. So the entire DevRel team started that initiative. So we all made videos. But my manager said, "Oh, well, Chris, like you have a talent in making videos." Now, let me clarify. I've never made
It's on video right now. But
like, but the funny thing is, I've never made a video before. Like, I don't know how to do video editing, none of that, right? So I kind of learned on the spot. As I was making the video, I was watching hours and hours of YouTube videos on how to edit videos. And yes, and my manager really liked my video editing styles, and he kind of just put me in charge of the whole Algorand developers YouTube channel. And that's kind of crazy. Like, think about it. You know, I'm fresh out of college. Well, I've been working for a year, and for a manager to trust me to run this whole initiative, it's crazy, right? And so I was very honored that my manager has put in so much trust in me. So I wanted to, deliver. So I spent weekends studying video editing, YouTube SEOs, thumbnails, importance of video titles. I was watching Mr. Beast, like what he was doing to get views, although it's very different. Like I'm creating educational content, he's creating viral videos, but still, like he knows, he's mastered YouTube. Like I saw one of his podcasts and he was like, "Oh, like how much subscribers do you have? Like how often do you post?" And he was able to correctly guess how much revenue that channel was making. Like that's how
that too crazy.
That's how skilled and knowledgeable he is at YouTube, right? So I put in my extra time to really study YouTube so that my videos get more views. Like even if I create amazing educational content, if no one's watching, what's the point, right? So I wanted to learn on those social growth aspects, so that I can get more people to watch these videos, learn, and be inspired to build on the Algorand blockchain. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about Algorand? Because I think a lot of people don't know about Algorand's technology. Like they maybe had heard about as a layer one when it came out. They maybe bought the tokens, but they're not deep in, they don't understand the technology. So a lot of people who are watching this are, attending ETH Denver. What can you kind of tell the ETH community? What should they know about Algorand?
Yeah, sure. So just to give you like the one sentence description of Algorand, it's a layer one blockchain that has this unique virtual machine called AVM, Algorand Virtual Machine. It was created by Sylvie Macaulay, who is a renowned cryptographer, MIT professor, and a Turing Awards winner. He's also the creator of Zero Knowledge Proof. So he knows
Pretty legit, yeah.
He knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
Silvio has claimed that Algorand is the first blockchain to solve the blockchain trilemma, which is the infamous problem of blockchain scalability, decentralization, and security, that no blockchain can have all three of them. Well, Silvio claimed that Algorand has solved this. So we have, it's very fast, it's decentralized, it uses a unique consensus process called pure proof of stake. And pure proof of stake is really the reason why Algorand was able to solve the blockchain trilemma, because it is one of the most decentralized way of achieving consensus, but it enables the blockchain to be fast because of how it works. Now, if you're curious, I recommend you go online and search pure proof of stake, because I don't have time to explain everything here. But yeah, Algorand right now can handle up to 10,000 TPS, 2.8 second block time, and has instant finality. And I think this is the part where a lot of people get angry because they think we're lying. There's
Why?
Because people are like, "Oh, like no transaction can be executed instantly. That's just physically impossible." And I think that's where like a lot of misunderstanding happens. We're not saying transaction on Algorand happen instantly. I mean, we still have that 2.8 second block time, but instant finality means when a new block is added to the blockchain, all of the transaction in that new block is instantly final. And this is not the case for a lot of blockchains out there.
Confirmations.
Right, because there's a chance for two blocks to be added to the chain at the same time. So there's a possibility of having this uncertainty of what chain is true. So like they recommend you to wait 6 or 7 blocks to be 100% certain that your transaction is final. Like, and that uncertainty is time to finality. So on Algorand, time to finality is 0 seconds. That's where we're saying it has instant finality. And it's really nice because as a developer, if you're building an application, having that certainty that whenever your transaction is added to the blockchain, it's instantly final is just so much better. Like you don't have to worry about that uncertain time frame. When you're building a front end, you don't have to worry about, oh, do we just take the risk and tell people that your transaction got executed and hope for the best that it doesn't get rolled back?
Do you think that happens?
I mean, it's a possibility. I don't know if it happens because I don't know. I can't know everything, but it's a possibility, right? And it's something that builders have to consider because it is a possibility. Or if they don't consider it, then they run into bugs and terrible user experience. It's just unnecessary headaches that builders have to worry about because of these technical limitations that some of these blockchains have. And Algorand doesn't have that problem. And I think that's one of the most powerful features that the Algorand blockchain has. Now, but what I'm kind of sad when it comes to Algorand is that Algorand is never in the conversation. And we've been giving the excuse of, oh, we're not EVM, so we're never included in these conversations, but that's not true. We have other non-EVM chains like Solana or Aptos Suite. They're always involved in these, analytics and conversations from these influencers. They're included, right? So what are we doing wrong? Well, I think the Algorand blockchain and our community need to communicate with other communities as more.
Everyone does.
Everyone does. In the near future, I see a future where blockchains are all connected to each other, and the end user won't care what chain they're using as long as the service that they use works and has a good user experience. No one cares.
You don't care if your website is HTML or it doesn't matter.
No.
As long as it looks good and it's easy.
Right. So we really have to get ourselves more out there, have these conversations with other blockchains, projects that are building on other chains, and see what they're like, the challenges that they're facing. If it's something that Algorand can help, then we help them out. Like these kind of interactions need to happen for the Algorand ecosystem to grow, but also just like to be involved in this whole Web3 narrative and the conversations. So that's why we are here at ETH Denver. We want to see what's happening in the EVM world. A lot of stuff is happening, right? So, I personally am interested to see what's going on, but I'm also here to just tell people about Algorand that we spent the entire year of 2023 heads down building our developer tooling, because the Algorand protocol is an amazing blockchain. It was designed by Sylvia McCauley, solved the blockchain trilemma, it's robust, secure, decentralized, fast, all the good stuff. But the developer experience was terrible. And this is coming from me, right?
Yeah. As someone who learned to be a developer.
Exactly,
even, so.
right? I'm not an amazing software engineer, but it took me like 6 days to set up my development environment back in the day when I was doing my internship. It was pretty bad, right? So
I'm not a developer. 6 days is a long time. Like,
well, imagine like let's say you're a developer and you want to build something. Yeah. No developer is gonna sit there and try to figure out what's wrong for 6 days. They're gonna try it for like what 10-30 minutes, and if it doesn't work, they're gonna move on.
It's that.
Oh yeah. So we were doing these boot camps, hackathons, and majority of our developers were giving up on the development environment setup stage. It was pretty bad. But John Woods, our CTO, he came to Algorand. He's amazing, and he saw this problem, and he said that this needs to be fixed. Right? The developer experience has to be seamless. Like the developers shouldn't have to care about setting up your development environment, like being frustrated with these kind of stuff where they're already busy building out the solution in this application, right? So we spent the entire year of 2023 and we've built this amazing all-in-one dev tool called AlgoKit that streamlines your entire developer journey from beginning to deploying on mainnet. Now we have two high-level languages in Python and TypeScript. And what's amazing here is that these are native Python and native TypeScript. So now when you're building smart contracts on Algorand, you don't need to learn a new smart contract language. If you're a Python or a TypeScript developer, you already know how to build a smart contract on Algorand because it has the same syntax, semantic compatibility. It works with the existing Python or TypeScript linters or formatters. You can leverage all these existing tools. So the developer experience is the same as building a Python application or a TypeScript application. And we went this far because we don't want to just make it easy for Web3 developers who know Solidity or know how to build on the EVM chain, but want to make it easy for any developer, right? We still have 99% of developers around the world who have never worked with blockchain before. They're open to it because I went to, what was it? Web Summit in Lisbon, which is a non-blockchain conference. It's a tech conference. And I talked to developers and they're all curious, right? They want to learn blockchain, but
it is interesting,
right?
Interesting.
Yeah, as a developer, you are interested in all these fancy new tech, but it's hard to learn, and often it's just not worth it to spend your weekends learning a new language, right? So we wanted to lower that barrier as much as possible, so that not just the individual developers can come in, but also just Web2 companies, right? Like, let's say you are the CEO of a Web2 company that wants to kind of use blockchain for a certain aspect of your business.
Can you give an example?
Oh yeah, sure. For example, I was just talking to this guy downstairs, and he's building this game for
Colin.
Yeah, Colin. He's building this game, like a history game for university students, so that students can play this game, learn the history of certain district, and he's planning to use the blockchain not for like tokens or DeFi, but use it to store permanent data for like student records. You know, how well they do on tests, whether they've passed this exam. You know, he want to store that kind of data on the blockchain, right? Now, his product there is not Web3. It's mostly just an interactive educational game that people can play. But he's using blockchain as a portion of his product to ensure that when he's working with these universities, he can provide a permanent, authentic record of these students, which can greatly improve the trust of these records. And like when it comes to academics, you know, we need that kind of data. Like I think we still rely on papers and
it's crazy, honestly.
Right. So blockchain has a lot of potential in that aspect. So that's an example, right? You don't have to be 100% Web3 native to use blockchain. It can just be a portion of your business to make it more efficient, or make it to reduce your operation cost, because this is basically a transparent, decentralized, permanent ledger, and you can store important data there, and you don't have to manage it because it's just on the blockchain, right? So, yeah, stuff like that.
What do you think that people miss the most about Algorand? Like, what is the miss? Like, what do people miss when they think about Algorand, do you think?
What do you mean by miss?
Like, I guess kind of why, because you talked about kind of like how it's not necessarily always brought up when they talk about these other layer ones. I guess another way to ask that is, do you see that changing in the near future?
There's a lot of work that we need to do. I think what's happening is that obviously EVM dominates the market. So when we're talking about blockchain technology, we're often talking about EVM blockchains. And if a non-EVM blockchain have a completely different design, it's very hard to understand that and compare those two chains. For example, on Algorand, um, we have smart contracts can send transaction, and it is a valid transaction, and we call them inner transactions. But when it comes to these chain comparison analysis websites, inner transaction doesn't exist on EVM chains. So like if they're keeping track of real TPS, they don't know what transactions to include there, right? For Solana, they're including their consensus transactions in their TPS. So all chains have different narratives, different designs.
What are your thoughts on Solana?
I think it's best I don't say anything. I mean, they're a great project. Good for them. Good luck with your project. But I think we have a lot of work to do as a whole, you know, as the industry. You know, we have to continue to push to come up with standards and metrics that we can safely use to compare between two chains, so that developers can make the best decision for whatever they're building. Also, Algorand, I think, you know, I've worked with Algorand for a year and a half full time, but including internships, almost 3 years now. Whenever I talk to people who work in the foundation and for Algorand, we don't really want to do anything fake or hype based. Like we want to market stuff if it's actually happening. Like we don't want to say, oh, in like 3 years or so, we're gonna have this, and it's gonna be awesome. We're gonna be the best chain and hype the community up. We don't do that. Now, obviously, there's debate whether that's good or not, but I personally think it's the ethical thing to do.
Sustainable.
And sustainable. Because we only want to tell people what we know for sure is going to happen. Like, we don't want to lie to people, you know.
You'll lose trust.
Yeah, we don't want that. And Algorand has always been, you know, okay, fundamentals first. Make sure the blockchain doesn't go down. Like the basics of blockchain. A blockchain should never go down. It's a decentralized network, right? So if it's operated properly and designed properly, it shouldn't go down, right? So, I mean, obviously with constant protocol upgrades, it's hard to keep that up, but we should be, you know, striving to keep the network up 24/7. And the Algorand protocol engineers and have just been dedicated to that mission. So for over 4 years, the Algorand blockchain has never gone down, right? And that's thanks to the protocol design engineers for taking a conservative approach, but also just how it shows how robust the design of the blockchain is that's created by Sylvia Mackay. So, you know, some people complain that, oh, like we lack marketing, we lack hype, but which I understand, right? I understand that, but I really think what we're doing here is not just for the short-term narrative of, oh, like tokens and hype and making money, volatility, but really building the future, the infrastructure of the future. Like you see some of the projects that are building on Algorand, it's amazing.
Talk about some.
Yeah, I would love to. You know, I think my favorite project is this company called TravelX. They're an Argentinian company, and they work with airlines to issue NFTs, issue their plane tickets in NFTs. So they're partnered with 2 airlines, one in Argentina.
What's the name of the airline?
Oh, shoot, I forgot. For Argentina, yes, for Argentina is Flybondi. Do you know for Mexico? Air Mexico.
Air
yeah.
Mexico.
Viva Mexico.
Yeah, Viva Mexico.
Oh, that's so cool.
So Viva Mexico apparently
I'm
is
only flying them from now on.
I think they're like the second largest airline in Mexico. But now those 2 airlines, all of their plane tickets are NFTs on the Algorand blockchain. And what's amazing here
You gotta
is
have fast transactions for that.
oh yeah, definitely. But what's amazing here is that usually what companies think is that when you use blockchain, it often reduces their revenue, right? Because
That's an interesting. Yeah, why?
let's say I'm just gonna think of an imaginary example here. Uh, let's say you are a game company, you have a game, and you sell loot boxes and game items. Now, all those transactions will go through your company, right? So you have full control over that marketplace and everything. Now, imagine having those game items and loot boxes in NFTs on a blockchain, and the users, the players, the players who play the game have more control over those assets. And now
They
the
actually
game company,
own the asset.
right now, and the game company now don't have control over those assets, and so it limits their ability to control it if they need to. And a lot of companies are afraid to use blockchain because of those reasons. But what's beautiful about TravelX is that they, um, they made a model where it not only improved the user experience, but it benefits and increased the revenue for the airlines. Now, it increases the user experience because the plane ticket is an NFT, so it's transferable, ownable. So when you buy a plane ticket, it actually gets transferred to you. You have the right to do whatever you put with that ticket, so you can resell it to the airline, give it to your friend as a gift, sell it at a secondary market, all that cool stuff. Now, you would think the airline wouldn't want that, but what's interesting is now because the whole refund feature lives on the blockchain, the airline don't have to manage that. Whereas now, the airline is managing all the refunds, the data sets, and everything. So they have to have a robust customer support to allow refunds, and that's why we pay like $150 more for refundable tickets. Well, now they don't have to do that, so they can reduce their customer support, therefore reducing their operation cost. And also, Flybondi, they've released an interesting statistic that they've witnessed after they've implemented NFT ticket with TravelX. They witnessed their customers buying their ticket much earlier than before, and this is because the customers now know that it's easier to get a refund, and now you don't have to pay that extra premium to get a refundable ticket.
Why wouldn't you do that? Yeah, everyone will definitely. I mean, that makes sense. Everyone
Right.
wants to be able to change their flight if they want.
Right. But right now, if you try to buy a ticket through any airline,
$150
yeah,
more, $200 more.
there's non-refundable ticket, which is the cheapest price, and you got to pay more for refundable tickets. But now that's not a problem. So customers are just buying tickets even if they're not sure of their travel plan. So it gives these airlines more money to play around with. It increases their revenue and all that good stuff. And this is beautiful because it just completely revolutionizes the travel industry. And it's not only good for the customer, but it's good for the airlines.
That's awesome. What do you think that the future of Algorand is like in the next 3 to 5 years? Like where do you expect it to be? You know, like do you think these projects are going to become huge, like huge companies, huge projects, or just kind of, I guess, just in general, what do you see happening in the next 3 to 5 years?
I mean, who knows, right? Like,
I need to know exactly now.
A month in the blockchain industry is like 10 years. I don't know. It's like everything changes so fast. But I can tell you what is coming in the near future. So we're actually having 2 big protocol upgrades coming on this year. And we have this beautiful roadmap called the Algorand Gambit. And the 2 big protocol upgrades are consensus incentivization and the peer-to-peer gossip protocol. So right now, when you run a Algorand node, you're not rewarded for your work. Unlike other blockchains where if you're participating in consensus, you get rewarded, right? We don't have that on Algorand right now. Well, we're going to be bringing that onto the network. So soon, anyone who run a node on the Algorand blockchain will be rewarded for their work. So that's a huge change coming to the network. Another one is right now, the Algorand network relies on these relay nodes to relay messages throughout the network. And this is one of the biggest criticism that the Algorand blockchain gets. And
Why?
so these relay nodes, what they do is they relay messages throughout the network, and they don't participate in consensus. So it doesn't harm the decentralization of consensus, but the problem is it's one, expensive to run these relay nodes, and two, currently these group of relay nodes were pre-selected by the foundation before the main launch. So a lot of people think, oh, the foundation has control over the network. Oh, if they don't like me, they can prevent my transaction, which is not true. But still, it is a valid criticism. The participation nodes that participate in consensus are not directly talking to each other. So we're going to be changing that and removing relay nodes, making them optional. And now these nodes will be able to talk to each other like a peer-to-peer network, so that we can become more decentralized blockchain. Yeah.
Awesome. Last thing is, what do you expect to kind of like see out of ETH Denver this year? And what is it like when you kind of go around and talk to people about Algorand? So at the event, what's it been like so far?
Yeah. I've had some interesting conversations. A lot of people are like, "Oh, are you EVM based?" And we say no, and the conversation ends there. But a lot of people were, just open to learning about the Algorand blockchain to see what we've been doing, and our focus for the last year, like I said, has been developers, like developers.
Yeah, Steve Ballmer.
Exactly. You know it.
Developers.
There you go. Because it all starts with developers. We got to make it easy and pleasant for developers to build here, or else it's not going to grow. It's not going to grow. So we've dedicated the past year for that, and we tell people, hey, now you can just write smart contract with Python and TypeScript, and a lot of developers are pleasantly surprised. And I think it got them intrigued enough for them to go home and maybe just search Google Algorand and see what's been happening, which is what we want. And hopefully we get a lot more eyes and attention to what's been happening on Algorand, and more people are open to talking with us, and we should be going to them, talking with them to see any type of potential collaboration. And yeah, and I really wish that happens in the future.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the amazing interview, Chris. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you, Zach.
Let's go. Everyone, make sure to follow Algorand developers, Algorand Foundation, and Algorand Technologies on X and YouTube. Thank you so much for the time, and let's get it. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.